Hey, how's it going, guys? So chapter 205 is out, and I feel the same way about this chapter that I have about the last few. I loved it. Hiro has revealed so many new things to us, but I have so many questions. Like seriously, this chapter opens up continuing the conversation between Shiki and Ziggy, and by the time we get to page 3 of this chapter, I was left scratching my head thinking, wait, how does any of that work? Because Ziggy says that in his universe, he didn't exist. But we saw in last week's chapter that there was clearly a Ziggy there. He was the one who sent the antimatter bombs over to Narrow 66 and started the whole chain of events that led to Shiki being flung 20,000 years into the future. Now, to be clear, Ziggy does say in the chapter that he came back from 20,000 years in the future of Universe 3173, but later on in the chapter, it's clarified that that's still his original universe that we've been calling Universe 2. And that him being sent into the future is a fixed point in time in almost every single universe that leads to Ziggy being born. But if Ziggy didn't exist in that universe, and Ziggy's the one who moves the antimatter bombs from Narrow 1 to Narrow 66, that leads to Shiki going into the future and becoming Ziggy, then going back in time and starting the whole cycle of events all over again, then who was that Ziggy from his original universe? And that really resonated with Shiki more than I ever had before when after Ziggy gets done explaining all of this to him, he just says, "I didn't understand anything you just said." And I feel like Hiro knew that we would end up getting confused by all this, and he was talking through Ziggy to us when he said, "You don't need to." Because I mean, obviously he's going to end up explaining and answering all of these questions that we have. We just kind of have to wait until that happens. Then Shiki asks Ziggy the big question that we've all been wondering since the last chapter. If your mission was for you to come back in time and save humanity, why are you trying to wipe all of it out now? Only for Ziggy to basically answer back by saying it's a secret. Which, like it did for all of us, I'm assuming, just ends up taking Shiki off, and he denies the idea that he could ever end up becoming Ziggy. Then the two of them get ready to continue their fight, and we see Ziggy finally activate his overdrive. Which, by the way, I gotta say, the design for his overdrive is dope as hell, and I'm not surprised because Hiro's kinda killed it with every single one so far. And then we cut over to Eden Zero's ship, and we end up finding out that Sister and Herman were listening in on Ziggy and Shiki this whole time. And again, just like how it was with Shiki, I really resonated with Herman in this chapter because almost everything she said was almost exactly what I was thinking when I got to reading the first 3 pages. Like, if Ziggy didn't exist in that universe, then neither should the Eden Zero ship, because the only reason why it was built was because Ziggy was sent into the future, and then the bots from that timeline built it for him to come back into the past. And if it didn't exist, or if he's saying that it didn't exist, then he's just flat out lying, because we know it did. Because we saw that the name for the ship was inscribed on Rebecca's B-Cube. Herman also ends up bringing up the question of why the Shining Stars were created, which is again something that we still have no answer for. I mean, we know that Ziggy created the Shining Stars and the Dark Stars around the same time, and he created them from original humans who had connections to each other, but we have no idea exactly what their real goal was. Like I said, we have so many questions, and we're just going to have to sit back and wait until Hiro decides to answer them. Oh, by the way, we get a quick shot of Clown in this chapter, and it looks like he's getting ready to do something. Then we cut over to Team Holly, and we get to see them actually bonding for a bit, which, again, is just kind of adding on more reason for Holly to feel guilty about trying to betray them, and deciding not to at the end of the arc. Now, they end up getting attacked by all these bots that Crow keeps inside of himself as, I guess, like a security system, in case anyone, like the 3 of them, actually manages to get inside of him. And at first, they're taking them out pretty easily. They're actually not really struggling that much against them when they initially get attacked. But as more and more bots come up, they start to get a little bit overwhelmed. And just as they're actually getting completely overwhelmed by the numbers that the bots have, this is when they actually stop being able to use their ether gear abilities. And then this is when we find out that Crow actually managed to catch Klein, destroy her ship, and then punch her straight into the ground. Now, I mean, obviously she's not dead, but this happening is supposed to represent them reaching like their lowest point during the fight, because with her down, they can't stop Crow's ether jammer, which means they're going to be completely overwhelmed by all the bots that he has inside of him. And you know the same thing's going to end up happening with Shiki too. With Ziggy activating his overdrive, their fight's probably going to shift to being pretty one-sided pretty quickly. And I feel like Hiro's going to do this with pretty much all the fights, you know, kind of show the good guys on the losing end. Now, that being said, we don't ever have to go back to the space fight. We can just like assume at the end of the arc that they'll end up defeating all the dragons around the planet, because outside of seeing Kyo's ether gear, we really have no reason to go back to that fight at all. But I think in the next chapter, we're going to end up seeing the fight between Agnolia and Justice. And just like with the other fights, he's going to continue the trend of seeing them basically be put at the lowest point, with Justice actually being outmatched by Agnolia and be put on the ropes. And then this will be the start of the good guys turning things back in their favor, by Justice finally deciding to work with Elsie, and the two of them managing to take down Agnolia. And then we'll end up finding out that Klein didn't die, and that she's using her overdrive to fly around Crow, blocking his ether jammer. That way that Team Holly can actually end up using their powers again, and they'll make their way all the way to Crow's core and end up destroying it. And then all that will be left is for Shiki to somehow overcome the power gap between him and Ziggy. Now, before I forget, I do want to give credit to Hiro making 3173 be the universe that Ziggy came from. He found a way to make a reference to one of his old works, and actually make it relevant to the story. Anyway, that's going to do it for me, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please drop me a like and subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate that. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subs, and I'd really appreciate your help getting there. Anyway, thanks again for watching the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Comment down below your thoughts on the chapter, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.